On Tuesday, the 10th of October, UN delegation led by the UN Secretary-General Special Advisor on Solutions to the Internal Displacement, Robert Piper, arrived in Mekelle. Tigray Interim Administration President Getachew Redda and his Deputy General Tzadkan ገብረትንሳኤ welcomed the delegation at his office where they held a discussion. During his opening speech, President Getachew says over 1 million of IDPs live in a terrible condition in different IDP camps in Tigray, and that is a major challenge of his administration.
It's not just that we are having the highest UN representatives in Ethiopia now, but more importantly, we have here, Your Excellency, someone who's been involved in addressing IDP issues, and it goes without saying, of course, that this is the most singular headache that bedevils Tigray right now, with more than 2 million IDPs in general, and about 1.1 million living in very terrible conditions in camps. I think your presence here will not only help highlight the kind of tragic situation they find themselves in, but more importantly, it will also contribute to our overall efforts to address the plights. Although the most important solution, as far as I'm concerned, it does require a genius to figure that out, is to return them to where they belong, which we believe is long overdue, which we have reason to believe that the federal government should have discharged responsibility in this regard. Although we continue to cooperate and work closely together with the federal government to that end, we still believe that this is something that's long overdue. But as I told you, I was in a launch of a national exam, and Tigray hasn't seen any semblance of educational activities the last 4 years, and unfortunately, one of the challenges that we face when it comes to resuming classes is because a significant number of our schools are still occupied by internally displaced people. And it's very unfortunate when these people who have been living in such tragic conditions for the last 3 years are now being given the opportunity not to return to where they belong, but to return to other makeshift camps within the same. So there is no status as far as their IDP status is concerned. To the extent that we are going to succeed in relocating them, we're not going to relocate them to where they belong. We are probably relocating them to other makeshift camps where there are no amenities and all that. So this is the kind of situation we find ourselves in. What makes the plight of IDPs even worse is, as you know, it's been almost 8 months now since the so-called humanitarian aid pause was imposed on us. Whatever the euphemism there, what we have is not a pause, but a total stoppage of humanitarian aid. And the very people who are being affected as a result of stoppage are more significantly IDPs, lactating women, malnourished children, and all that. So you can see for yourself how complex the problem is and how complicated it gets by the day. And once again, without further ado, I would like to once again welcome you here, and it's my hope and expectation that your presence would not only help highlight the problem that our people continue to face and the kind of daunting challenge that we continue to face as an interim administration, but more importantly in seeking lasting solutions to the problem that has been afflicting our people. Thank you.
UN Secretary-General Special Advisor on Solutions to Internal Displacement Robert Piper arrived in Mekelle this morning alongside UN Ethiopia Chief Dr. Ramiz Alakbarov and representatives of UN agencies in Ethiopia. During the discussion, the Special Advisor noted that concerted efforts should be put in place while planning to return the IDPs back home.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Governor, President, and thank you so much for receiving us. Thank you for also setting the stage for this conversation. It's my first visit to Tigray. I have a lot to learn, and I'm here to learn and to listen. We have over 71 million IDPs around the world, across the globe for different reasons, from conflict to disasters to nuclear accidents And many governments are wrestling with this problem. How do you support people in their displacement, but how do you, as quickly as possible, allow them to go back to some level of normality, whether it's to go home or whether it's to be resettled or integrated? Across the world, governments are struggling to do this well, and the UN is very determined to be supportive of the governments in doing that. The Secretary General has tasked me to work with the UN family and our partners at the World Bank and elsewhere to really reconfigure our efforts to be more effective at supporting someone like yourself, Mr. President, in managing your displacement challenges. We too have struggled to do this effectively, and so we have this moment to get it right. And Ethiopia is one of 15 countries around the world where we are testing these new approaches. What does a solutions pathway look like for displaced people, with government firmly in the driving seat, with the development system as well as the emergency actors also involved, where we have financing from different sources? So Tigray, of course, is the epicenter of the challenge here in Ethiopia, and so we need to support you in breaking through in this challenge with the agencies around the table. I understand a significant number of displaced people in Tigray have already returned home, but are living in very precarious conditions. That can't be enough to simply put people on a bus and maybe help them with a shelter. I understand the job of a returns process is to make sure they have services, to make sure there are schools, to make sure there are health facilities with staff there, to make sure that the economy is coming back alive. I understand, so you have a large group of displaced people, maybe over 1 million, that have already returned home, but the job is not finished. You have another group you mentioned in schools that are waiting to return home and may be able to, and another group still who are not able to return home because of security concerns still. So somehow to have at the same time a concerted effort at supporting that process of getting people home, allowing them to reintegrate into their communities, and to sustain the support for that other group that still cannot take that option. How do we do that? How do we make sure there are enough resources? How do we minimize the trauma, the disruption? You spoke of the exams, Mr. President, making sure that children don't miss those years of school, that they don't fall behind, that their trajectory, if you will, is protected, and they can see a good future on the other side of this period of crisis for Tigray over recent years. So we're here to learn, but we're here above all to support. And you see in the room very strong. I'm very impressed with the sheer number of UN agencies who are present in Tigray. It's as big as some of our country teams anywhere in the world. Even some not here in the room, but out there doing what they need to be doing today. And so I'm very pleased to see we have such strong assets. We need to make sure that we have both emergency humanitarian assets, but also the longer-term development assets here to support in building institutions, in reviving the economy, in attracting investors for the long term and not just for the short term, because you need that combination in order to resolve what you call the singular headache, which I can appreciate is something that keeps the government awake at night, as it does for me globally. So thank you. Very delighted to be coming with the resident coordinator of the UN in Ethiopia. Dr. Ramiz leads this effort for Ethiopia. It's very strong development leadership in order to make sure, again, that we bring this piece of the puzzle. We're pretty good on the emergency response, but the development part has not caught up. So this is a little the challenge we have under his leadership in Ethiopia.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
UN Ethiopia Humanitarian and Resident Coordinator Dr. Ramiz Alakbarov on his part promised that his office will work to bring durable solutions to the IDPs.
Today's occasion is our lead person in the UN system on the issues of the internally displaced people. Robert Piper is here. It's an opportunity for us to galvanize around durable solutions for the IDPs. I know that concerns remain about, first of all, of course, food distribution. As you have learned from media and other sources, last week we have resumed distributions for the refugees. We hope to be able to make the same progress in the IDP settings soon. Of course, we continue to work on the required arrangements and systems to make that happen. But the focus of today's mission is not really that much on the distributions, how much on the durable solutions. Why? Because it's one thing to give people food. It's totally different thing to work with our capable people and on that fertile land to help them to grow their own food, to grow their own animals, and to create networks so that the small and medium enterprises, so that the communities can actually thrive from their work, and we can offer people durable solutions. Of course, we need to look at the complexity of what it takes. It takes, of course, housing, it takes, of course, energy, it takes, of course, water. So what we would like to do in parallel of my responsibility as a humanitarian coordinator to do the needful, which we will continue to do, because those humanitarian needs are not going to disappear over the night or go away, but we have to start working on durable solutions more and more, so that the communities and the people are not dependent on the aid, but they can work, generate their own income, generate their own food products, and it is perfectly possible in this setting which we are in. So we will be visiting several regions, but we have, as part of this particular mission, given the numbers and the impact which we have seen here, I believe it's important that we start here and we look. Tomorrow we will be in other regions visiting, and let's see how we can work together. Obviously, solutions like that will have to involve not just the aid actors and government, they will have to involve private sector as well, because we need to link with the private sector. We need to create networks and let people work, earn their money, and be able to feed their families. And actually, the whole network of what is the fabric of the society, which needs to be restored and which needs to be nourished so that they can sustain themselves. So that's what we're here for. I would like to thank again His Excellency the President, the Vice President of the region, and all of the colleagues. It is an effort. We will continue to do so, and I will be visiting you very often, as I plan to spend most of my time in the regions, specifically looking into the pressing matters. Now, in focus today are the durable solutions and getting focus on the IDPs. As always, I'm not alone here. We have representatives of UNDP Development Program, we have representatives of UNHCR, OCHA, our colleagues looking for security matters, and of course durable solution experts, and our colleagues from New York, from OCHA. IOM colleagues are here with us. So when I come, I always come as a group, and soon also you will have a visit from our colleagues from FAO, who will be looking into standing up a very strong initiative which we would like to put in all the regions for food systems.
Tigray currently hosts over 1.1 million IDPs languishing in different makeshift IDP camps that are supposed to be schools for children. President Getachew stressed on the need to return the IDPs back home for the school system to start functioning. Getachew also stated that the presence of the UN Special Advisor will help in finding lasting solution to the problems of the IDPs.
So I wouldn't be surprised if people still are waiting for you to go there and exchange some words with them.
Of course.
That would be, because, what I like most about your job description is you're not particularly interested in window dressing. You are more interested in durable solutions. Right. And we are more interested, and that's the most appropriate thing to do as far as we're concerned, to look for durable solutions. That involves political, economic, humanitarian response, I understand, and it's our hope and expectation that this is going to be a very productive visit, and that would bring about some more strength for our efforts to deepen peace, because it's very unfortunate that no matter how eloquently I describe the need for peace, people for the last 8 months seem to have steadily been growing suspicious of whether that indeed is going to be the case. So you have an additional burden of trying and convince them that a durable solution, in fact, is possible. And I hope your efforts will contribute to that sense of hope. Whatever we do, we will do. We'll continue to engage, not just the federal government, but also we've been working with all the UN agencies here. We would like the UN agencies to focus to shift attention away from humanitarian responses and focus more on developmental activities. But it's a long way off as far as we're concerned, because most everything that we find in Tigray requires humanitarian response. We have drought, and of course we have desert locust. We have, I'm being educated on the number and variety of locusts and challenge that we continue to face. And in northwestern Tigray, we are facing a different breed of locust. It is a tree locust, but they tell me it has now mutated to a point where it also feeds on crops. It's very unfortunate. So what we have here by way of challenge is quite daunting, and I hope your presence would add to resolving some of the problems. And the fact that you're focused on durable solutions is something that gives me extra hope that we can turn things around for the better. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, that will be enough, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right,
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, it was a pleasure.
In his first ever visit to Tigray, the UN Secretary General's Special Advisor on Solutions to Internal Displacement, Robert Piper, visited IDP camps in Ma'ala, where he says bringing the IDPs back to their origins should be the first priority of the government.
When I asked people in this camp, what is the solution for them? It is to go home. And I understand that has to be the number one option. That needs to be the priority for the government to make that happen.
The UN Secretary General's Special Advisor spoke with the IDPs at Sawakari IDP camps. The IDPs raised many questions and explained the prevailing challenges they're facing, including lack of food, medical supplies, and sanitation materials.
That no one wants to stay in transition for too long. People need to get home, people need to get on with their lives, children need to go to school. Farms need to be farmed. So I want to talk to you about what does it take, what do we need to do to try and allow you to get back to a normal life. And I think we need to scale that up. We need to think about how to support those processes, make sure that people go home, that they stay home because they have services, they feel safe, their children have access to schools, that irrigation systems are working, pumps are repaired. I think this is still a very big challenge in Tigray. Seeing someone disappear on the bus towards their home is not the full story. We have to be much more deliberate about supporting them. So this is where I go back to Addis Ababa, and I go back to talk to people at the World Bank, and I go and talk to lots of partners of Ethiopia to figure out how can organizations like the United Nations, but also the banks and others, how can we organize ourselves to support governments like the Ethiopian government to make sure these returns processes are successful, that they stick, that people are able to restart their lives properly.
The special advisor visited different sites at the camp alongside the UN delegation. Head for the UN OCHA in Ethiopia, Michael Saad, says the main purpose of the visit is to look for alternatives on how the UN and its agencies can support returning plans.
The purpose of our visit is, of course, to check again on the situation of the displaced people and see what we can do to support the regional government plans in terms of returning them where possible to return, and if not possible to return at the moment, what we can offer them to move a bit away from not only giving relief aid, but to see what we can do to bring them more dignity.
The delegation went back to Addis in the afternoon, finishing its one-day visit to Tigray capital Mekelle.